Yeah. Hatred's natural, anger's natural, anxiety's natural, depression's natural, sadness is natural, grief is natural. All these emotions as like a feeling are natural,
But getting stuck
and
there is not.
they're all useful in different
Yes.
ways, right? So the feeling of emotion is important, because if we don't feel it, we're not aware of it, again, it's gonna drive us
Yeah.
unconsciously, right? But I think the distinction that we want to start making is the reactions are not natural, right? So
How
like
you
for me,
respond to it is not natural.
yeah, exactly. The way we respond to our environment and circumstance, that there's nothing about that that's natural.
Okay.
That's trained and conditioned,
Yeah.
right? And what activates one emotion over another is not natural. That's also trained and conditioned. So, like as an example, somebody could, insult me. They'd call me stupid. Joey, you're an idiot, right? In the past, based on what I learned from my environment, I would get angry and I would retaliate, right? But, my mentors, as an example, that I had in my life, had training. And so somebody could call them the exact same thing, and they literally would not react initially with anger. They would react or respond with compassion, understanding that this person is in pain, or that they're ignorant, or it's just not worth, losing their state for, or suffering over this individual's ignorance or whatever. And so reactions to life, responses are not natural, they're trained and conditioned. Now, it might seem like it's natural because we're so fast to the reactions that we show up with in our life. That gets, as I say, gets activated in us. But when we learn to train this stuff, and you start redefining, reconditioning, retraining your impulsive reaction and or response to things, you start realizing nothing is actually natural. It's all trained and conditioned. So why don't I take reign over my training and conditioning and design the emotions and the thoughts that I want to predetermine, because they're going to align me with not just the experience of life I want to have, but the success, whatever that means to us, I aspire to have.
Yeah, I suppose it's about looking at the life you want to create for yourself. And I believe that most of these 95% of people never do that. Two things: they probably never actually give themselves permission to go, well, what actually is the life I want? And even if they did, they probably don't think it's possible. Uh,
Right.
so maybe they have to start to that point of believing. But once you've looked at the life you want to create and you believe that's possible, I suppose then you can look back at how you're behaving, what you're feeling, and how you're responding, and go, well, is this serving that? If I remain an angry man who punches people, what's
Yeah.
the odds of me ending up being a best-selling self-help author? Probably, or will I be behind bars? Is but I mean, you do get to go, okay, well, I can continue to do this, but it's not going to be alignment. And if I reprogrammed myself with these different ways to response, but something you said earlier, which I think struck me, was that um, it is a bit like going to the gym. You're not going to teach this to someone. Well, so you can correct me. My assumption is you're not going to teach this to someone. They're going to walk out of your room or your seminar and go, I'm fixed. What you're going to do is give someone a set of tools, just like you were training them in martial arts, and go, this is how you do it. Are you willing to train with me for the next decade as you slowly,
Yeah.
become better and stronger and fitter? Because I mean, that's my experience, and I imagine that's your experience with most people. If they're not willing to take that commitment and do that work on themselves, that's what's needed, I would imagine.
Yeah. 100%. It's interesting because like we can experience a shift in ourselves almost
Yes,
immediately.
yeah.
Like when I was, I was 21, 22 years old when I first started training people, because my mentors were like, you have to go teach what we're teaching you, otherwise we're not going to train you. And I was like, I don't want to teach. Like, why would I
I'm a
want to do
kid.
that? And they're
Yeah.
like, well, if you want us to train you, you're going to do that, right? It wasn't an option. So I started doing that, and eventually a mentor of mine was like, you need to kind of make a living out of this stuff. Like, you need to stop sleeping on people's couches and hanging that in your car, right? You need to like make something of yourself. So pick a rate. People are already asking you for advice. Let's start charging people. And I remember I go, okay. But my first clients, because my mentor Lou in Los Angeles was a world-renowned psychologist, and I was teaching her inner training, meditation, and she was training me in psychology. We were trading, and she started referring me to her clients. But her clients were like, some of the like famous actors and actresses, and of the time, and like, very successful entrepreneurs, executives at like Sony Industries and the Fortune 100, 500 companies, like pro athletes. So all of a sudden, I'm working with the elite of society, who are operating at the top level in what they're doing. But I was there because they were not happy. They were not fulfilled. They had all the things. They had all the money. They had all the success. They had fame. Like if I named their names, like you'd know who they are,
Yeah.
kind of
But
fame,
not the
right?
fulfillment.
And they were totally, totally suffering, right? And they'd try psychology, all the things. So Lou would just send me over there, and then they wouldn't know who I am, and because it was just a referral from Lou, and I'd show up at their house, and they opened the door, and there's this like 20 some odd year old kid just standing there, right? And they're like, "You cannot be the person Lou sent over here, right?" And so like I basically had 20 minutes, and that's what I would say to him. I go, "I get it. I'm young. Give me 20 minutes. If you don't feel like this is worth your time, I'm out of here." And so in as little as 20 minutes, if we understand what to do, we can create a significant shift in the experience of ourselves.
Mm.
The mistake people make is they go, "Oh, I experienced a shift in the experience of myself. This means I'm now good." No, it's an opportunity now. It's something that's become available, but now we need a condition as our reflex, and we need that to take over the thing that used to be happening. That's where training comes in, right? And what I find is like in as little as 2 days, like when we do our immersive trainings or like our weekend programs, we go from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, 10 in the morning till 5 p.m. And we go without a break. Like
Mm.
we're constantly training. It's not really lecture style. It's all
Yeah.
experiential.
Yeah.
And like in 2 days of immersion, you can create a transformation. Like you can truly create a new paradigm or experience of yourself where you're accessing something completely different than you've known before. But then again, the mistake people make is they go, "Oh, I feel great. Now we go back to our life." But then we go back to doing the same things we've always
Mm.
done. And now all of a sudden we lose that transformative moment as opposed to reinforcing it with that consistency of training so we hold on to it. And so transformation can happen very quickly. Transformation can happen instantaneously. Mastery takes time. The redefining of oneself takes time.
I've had done much training over the years with Tony Robbins, so I really understand this notion of immersion because he does exactly what you do, which is bring you in, and
Yeah.
you're still standing in a room at 11 p.m. at night, and you're going, "What the hell is going on with this guy?" And then you realize that what's going on is he has you for a weekend, and he wants to completely
Yeah,
immerse you in this. And I
exactly.
remember doing his Unleash the Power Within, and then deciding to sign up for his whole mastery program. But I think and I knew many people who'd gone to that weekend, but it was essential because then it was like I was doing one training and then in 3 months' time I was going to the next and three. So I was being dragged along in this immersion process because otherwise I would have slipped off the track. And I love your analogy of the ski slope. If you remember
Mhm.
that, you might just
Yeah,
explain it
yeah,
because I think that
100%.
it describes clearly to people how our behavior reinforces itself. You might just, if you can recall that analogy, I think it would stick with people.
Yeah, 100%. So like in the book we talk about like skiing, and I'm a big skier. Like I love skiing, and especially, going like backcountry
Mm.
and fresh powder and that kind of stuff. But it's like when you ski, hopefully you make your S turns and you have these nice ruts in the snow. Well, if you were to ski that same exact run again and again and again, that rut would get deeper and it would get deeper and it would get deeper. And this is, an analogy to represent neurological conditioning, because the neural pathways in the brain, when we activate a neural pathway by way of emotions we feel in a certain way we think, and then we act, those neural pathways get stronger and they get reinforced. And then other neural pathways, get weaker and less strong. And so what happens, a lot of us, we activate the same neural pathways in the brain again and again and again and again. They get very, very strong. This is what forms quote unquote habit or reflex. And so if we want to redefine ourselves, we got to break apart the neural pathways that have formed, and we got to start forming literal new neural pathways in the brain. And that's like when we immerse ourselves in deep training, like a weekend program that I was speaking about, and then we reinforce it daily, right? Just 10 minutes a day. It doesn't need to be like a whole life event. It's just 10 or 20 minutes a day. If we're doing the correct training and we're in the right discipline, it will break apart current neural pathways, or that rut, that skier's rut, and it'll form new neural pathways, new lines in which we can execute from. And the idea is, if we reinforce the new neural pathways enough, eventually the old neural pathways are going to lose formation. They're going to dissolve. They're going to go away. And the new constructs are what we're left with, which is what gives us the ability to feel joy. Like joy is a neural pathway.
Mm.
sadness is a different neural pathway. So if we can learn to recognize when that neural pathway of sadness is active, turn that neural pathway off, activate the neural pathway that activates or creates joy in the body and sends a whole different hormonal reaction to the physiology and the organs, etc. That's how we literally can train new emotions, which then give us access to new decisions and actions.
And I suppose the point there, if your normal reaction is anger, frustration, irritability, if that's your normal response, that's your pathway furrowed in the ski slope. I mean, that's the pathway
Right.
you're in, and so your brain almost has no choice but to drop into that neural pathway, and it may be unpleasant, but it's comfortable. It's what they know, and now you decide I don't want to be angry anymore. I want to feel joy, and this is where will you consciously have to recognize that I need to start creating neural pathways, and it will feel bloody difficult, bloody uncomfortable, and will be hard, and I will slip very easily back into the anger until I continually retrain it over a period of time. And eventually you reverse those neural pathways, and now joy or peace or happiness becomes easier for you than anger.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. And then I loved what you said there in terms of like the thing is like comfort is
Yeah.
what we tie familiar to. So even though like it might be really really painful, if it's something we're accustomed to and we're actually comfortable with it, right? Comfort is familiarity. Discomfort is unfamiliar. So if I'm not often joyful and all of a sudden I feel joyful or peaceful or all the things we say we want to experience, we actually feel very uncomfortable initially in those different expressions because they're unfamiliar. And
Yeah.
then we've got to learn to overcome that discomfort, which is where practice and discipline comes in, so that it becomes natural. And we use that word natural. All the only thing natural really is that which we're comfortable with. It's become a reflex. It's like I always tell people, like that no sports. I was a baseball player, and I got pretty good, and I got pretty good as a hitter, right? And I remember I wanted to learn golf as an adult, and it was very hard to hit that ball straight because I swung it like a baseball bat, right?
Yeah.
And like when I swung it correctly and the ball went straight, it was the most awkward feeling in my body I'd ever experienced because I was doing all these things that for years I was taught exactly not to do, right?
Yeah.
Because a golf swing is completely different than a baseball swing. And what I had to do is go, oh, look for that awkward sensation because that's correct.
Yes. Yeah.
And then once I kind of mimicked that awkward sensation, knowing that was correct, eventually that awkward sensation, I did it so many times, is no longer awkward. It now felt quote unquote natural. Right. So it's the same thing with training emotions. We've got to learn how to manage the nervous system until the new way of being becomes natural because we've passed that awkwardness and it's just become a reflex.
And we've got to recognize that it will feel uncomfortable, it will feel unnatural. And I'm conscious of someone listening to this or watching this and thinking, okay, I do get too angry or whatever it is, and I want to change that. And then they go and change and they go, oh, that was really difficult. I found it, to try and find calm or
Mhm.
whatever in that situation. And I suppose the lesson here is, yes, that's right. It will feel difficult, and that's a signal to you that because if it felt even if it felt unpleasant, if it felt comfortable, you're staying in the same neural pathway. If you're noticing that it's hard to move to this, then you're doing, even if you feel you're making no progress, you're probably making a lot of progress just by the fact you notice. Yes, it's difficult for me to be calm. Excellent. Keep doing that, and it will become easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Exactly.
recall I was in an entrepreneurs retreat there a couple of months ago, and we're in a room in the evening, sharing different things. And I can't remember, the question came up, and we were giving everyone had sit in front of the group, and we're giving this some feedback. And I got this feedback from a lot of people. If people said that I radiated calm, and I'm thinking to myself, well, sure, I've been practicing meditation every day for 40 years. And the reason I just say that is because it's not that, oh my God, you're a calm individual. No, I've
Right.
trained myself to be calm because when I was a teenager, I wasn't. And so
Right.
it's it's the training, and then people assume, no, that's your natural state. Well, it is now,
Right.
like it is now. I'm conscious of our time moving on. I really, if you still have time, I'd really like to talk a little bit about your new book, Relationship Alchemy, which, as I say, I've dug into Inner Matrix and I haven't to Relationship Alchemy, but I'm interested in it because ultimately, if we don't create great relationships in our life, nothing else much matter. Um, could you talk a little bit about the essence of relationship alchemy and what's that all about?
For sure. So it's interesting because, like, we've been talking about the inner matrix and our inner pattern dynamics, and something that I realize is if we want to know a fulfilled life and create what is truly possible for ourselves, and in every regard, right? Inner well-being, financial success, wealth, friendships, vibrant families, etc. It all does start with us within ourselves. Like, we have to commit to learning to train our emotion, our thought strategies in our nervous system, and align the realities of ourselves with that which we want to create. Like, that's always going to be our first step, is truly training ourselves. It starts with us, inner training. But then from there, we do need tools and tactics if we're going to thrive in any regard, right? If we want to build wealth, we need to understand the system to follow. We need to have the financial competencies of investing and so on and so
Mm,
forth if we're going to thrive financially. And it's the inner management that gives us the ability to execute the tactics and the systems. If you had access to the tactics and the systems, because when I first started training people, I thought, man, if I just give them the
mm,
tactics and the systems, the answers, they're going to transform their life. It's going to be great. But then I gave them the answers. Nobody did anything.
mm,
And I was like, well, what's going on here? It's because they couldn't actually get themselves to take new action because the emotions and the thought strategies and the nervous system was getting in their way. And so what relationship alchemy is over the last 22 years, one of the passions that I've had, because my family struggled. And I was like, how do you make families work? Like, what does that look like? How do you make relationships work? Because mine clearly didn't at a time. What I found was like, oh, when we look at 1,000 different relationships, which for me, I still work in the trenches today, even though I don't have to. I still have a one-on-one practice. I still like working with people directly, even though I now have, I think 90,000 people or something have been through
wow,
our programs and trainings at
that's
this
a lot
point,
of
right?
people.
But I still love having a one-on-one practice because I love training people, right? And it's interesting because, like, after taking literally over 1,000 couples through a process, and usually they come to me and they're like, Joey, we're going to divorce, or it's like business partners who are about to sue each other for,
Wow.
who's going to get what when they sell the company or whatever it is. It's like, oh, when relationships don't work, we're doing the same key things. There are certain habits, there are certain patterns, there are certain dynamics that diminish relationship. And then on the other side, when you look at relationships that really thrive, there are certain key things that those individuals are doing that are ensuring relationships thrive. And so, what relationship alchemy is really like, hey, here's what is going to destroy a relationship, and here's why we do it, and here's how we stop doing it.
Mm,
And then here's what we do instead. Like, these things are going to make sure not just your romantic relationship thrives, but all relationships thrive, right? Because the core way of being in relationship is the same in all relationships. Like, the way we are with our spouse truly is very similar to, and the same as, for the most part, the way we are with our friends and our boss and our coworkers and so forth. Like, 90% of relation dynamics are the same in all relationships. And so if we look at one relationship that we want to see ourselves enhance or transform, and we go, okay, here are the relationship dynamics that I'm going to get inside of to ensure that this relationship thrives, then we're going to align ourselves with all relationships thriving. So that's essentially what relationship alchemy is.